Banjo Patterson. He's famously represented on the $10 note. Now, during his time, he was born in the 1860s to farming parents in the bush in New South Wales, a bit further south of here. During his time growing up in the bush, he saw many things that would later be represented in his writings, including his father losing the whole of his wool clip to flooding, and later being forced to sell the family property due to debts. Initially, Banjo Patterson was educated at home. Then later he was able to go to a small bush school before finally being sent to Sydney Grammar School and being educated in Sydney University, where he took a degree in law. He practiced law for a period of time before he found writing, and of course writing is the thing that he's known best for nowadays. Now, why am I standing near a waterfall talking to you about Banjo Patterson? Well, quite simply, there's a very historical connection to this waterfall in this area. Now, Banjo Patterson, he lived in this area through until the early 1900s, and one young lady that he met, he was so be taken by that he decided to propose, and he proposed on the viewing platform of these falls here. This is the Bunu Falls, and the young lady was so taken by the spot and by the proposal that she said yes and became his wife. So Banjo Patterson, born Andrew Barton Patterson in 1864 near Orange, headed up to Tenterfield in the 1890s, and that's where he met the girl Alice Walker, who was to become his wife. Here's a photo of Banjo, and here's a photo of his wife. And this is the church that they were married in, the Presbyterian Church in Tenterfield. I thought I would read you a poem by Banjo Patterson standing in this spot. Now, it doesn't relate to the proposal or his particular love poem, but it is a poem about the bush, and I thought it would be very relevant to read this poem in this place. The mountains, a land of sombre, silent hills where mountain cattle go, by twisted tracks on sidings deep where giant gum trees grow, and wind replies in river oaks to the song of stream below. A land where hills keep watch and ward, silent and wide awake, to those who sit by a dead campfire and wait for the dawn to break, or those who watch the holy cross for the dead Redeemer's sake. A land where silence lies so deep that sound itself is dead. A gaunt grey bird, like a homeless soul, drifts noiseless overhead. And world's great story is left untold, the message left unsaid. Now, Banjo was friends with a bunch of other famous Australians, including Henry Lawson, of course, and some other folks you may not have heard of as often. So one of those was Breaker Morant. Now, Breaker Morant was also a writer and a bushman. Now, Morant served in the Boer War, where Patterson also was serving as a war correspondent. Breaker was serving as a lieutenant in the army. Now, another person who is connected to this area is James Francis Thompson. Now, Thompson was also a lawyer, and he lived and practiced in Tenterfield after having taken his degree and started his employment in Sydney as well. He lived in this area. He actually had a property near this area, in the Bunu area, or the Bunu area. Now, the reason why he's part of this story is because he was actually the gentleman who
Come on, my arm's going to sleep.
So, James Francis Thompson, he had a law practice in Tenterfield. He also owned the Tenterfield Star, an early newspaper, and he used that newspaper to help promote some of the early years of Federation. So you may be aware the Tenterfield area is where Sir Henry Parkes gave his first speech to Federation, and some people call that the birthplace of Federation, the birthplace of our modern Australian nation, Australia. So while in South Africa, Morant and a number of others were charged by the British military of murdering Boer prisoners. As part of that, they had the right to be represented. That's where Thompson came into play. As a lawyer and as also a serving member of the forces at the time, he was called in to give them defence. Now, the trial would be deemed unfair by modern standards, They only had one day to prepare for the case, and then the court-martial went on for a number of weeks. Now, Morant and another Australian called Hancock were both found guilty of murdering Boer prisoners. The defence that was put up is that essentially they were acting under orders, standing orders not to take prisoners. Despite the best efforts of Thompson, Morant and Hancock were both executed by firing squad shortly after the trial was concluded, and they were found guilty. This is the very last time that Australian soldiers would ever be tried under a British court-martial system. He left the military, he came back to Tenterfield, and ultimately he withdrew from society and from his active life. He stopped practicing law, he sold his newspaper, he retired to his property near this area, and in the end he died a lonely and sad old man, and dying from malnourishment and other ill effects of his lonely and withdrawn life. And while that's a sad story, it's also a positive story in that these men were part of the founding of the Australian nation, and were part of the modern life and the modern world that we have now. And we can have a look at this beautiful place here, and we can only just imagine what amazing thoughts they would have thought by being able to be in this location. Now, this is definitely an inspiring place. That's it for today. I hope you found this video interesting. If you did, please give me a like. That really helps out the channel. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.